Peace, love, and prosperity to all of humanity on planet Earth. This is Abdul Smith Al Kabir, the Sultan of Morocco, the jour, legitimate Sultan of Morocco as of June 8th, 2024. Hamdan is a fraudulent imposter, and he don't know that. Today, for now, switching gears from the active Alger series, all right, and we're going now into what became the French Protectorate. Um, which means we're going to read the Treaty of Fez. Yeah, so we'll be going into the Treaty of Fez to discuss what set up, what happened here. I'm sorry. What happened to my share? Sometimes this Zoom, be patient with me, Moors. Hold on one second. Okay, am I sharing the screen? Can you all see my
Yes.
screen? Okay,
Yes,
excellent.
now we can, yes.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sometimes my Zoom has a tendency of having my computer go haywire for some reason. I don't understand it. Anyhow, the Treaty of Fez, the protectorate treaty between France and Morocco. So you recall that we discussed the Moroccan crisis, which then brought about the act of Algeciras. All right. Now, who was it that gave the uh, wise counsel to enact the act of Algeciras? That was the country of Germany under Emperor Kaiser Wilhelm II. Who's a more? Did we see that last week? Is that what we saw last week?
Sir.
Okay. So when you study the French protectorate, uh, it brings the realization that the Treaty of Fez, although Morocco is the sovereign authority, the French government it was imposed upon Morocco, right, by the French government. By that time, Abdulaziz, Sultan Abdulaziz, had already been overthrown by his brother. Um, Forget his brother's name. We'll pull it up in a second. But his brother was he gained the popularity because he was campaigning against French colonial rule. That's what facilitated for him to come into power. Okay. So in that, there's an interesting story of a blue sultan. Has anyone ever heard the term the blue sultan of Morocco? Anyone?
No, I have never heard of it.
Well, you're gonna hear about it tonight. Let me try to fix this. So perhaps I got too many things pulled up. Oop, there we go. Okay, so let's talk about the blue sultan for a second. Very interesting. So who's the blue sultan? This guy right here, Ahmed Al-Hiba. Somebody read this brief article regarding, and there's not a whole lot of information on him, but he is definitely in the Le Petit Journal, right here, as you see on the right. Somebody read this for me, please.
Islam.
Okay, go ahead, my brother.
This article is about the pretender to the Moroccan throne for the Egyptian archaeological site CL Heba. Malay Ahmed Habat Allah ibn Ma'ala Ayanin, 9 September 1877 through 26 June 1919, was a leader of an armed resistance to the French colonial power in Western Sahara and was the Blue Sultan of Morocco. In English text, he is usually named simply El Heba. In addition to his revolutionary activity, Ahmed al-Heba was a prolific poet.
So it's nothing new that we are into revolutions and spitting rhymes because he's a prolific poet, right? And he's a revolutionary. That's the excuse me, that's the 70s, 80s hip hop. Somebody got to mute Sarah from Wadi, please mute yourself. But interestingly, his name is El Hiba. Okay, continue though. Sarah, you got to mute yourself. Sarah, you need to mute yourself. Thea. Let me try to mute her. Okay, there we go. All right, good brother.
Early life.
Go ahead, continue.
Ahmed Habat Allah ibn Ma'ala Ayanin was born on 9 September 1877. He was the son of Ma'al Ayanin, a religious leader of the Sahara who led an armed uprising against the French in the first decade of the 20th century.
I want you to notice the similarities. You know, didn't we, as the subjugated black man in America, have religious leaders and dealing with uprisings? Is that not similar standards, similar way statuses?
Yes, it
right?
is.
This guy was a revolutionary and a prolific poet. That's Tupac. Wasn't he a son of a panther revolutionary? And isn't he a prolific poet?
Yes.
Like, this is very interesting.
Yes,
How
sir.
similar the similarities to the Moors. All right, or to the so-called black man. All right, continue, good brother.
Shortly after Ma'al Ayanin's death in 1912, the French imposed the Treaty of Fez on the Moroccans and took virtual control of the country. Ma'al Ayanin's son, Al-Heba, then decided that this effectively vacated the position of Sultan of Morocco and proclaimed himself Sultan at Tiznit, Morocco, as his father had done before him.
Okay, so what do we see here? That the French imposed the Treaty of Fez on the Moroccans, on us. Let's pause right there and take a look. Let's take a look at what Moroccans look like. The man looked like 2 Chainz, man.
It's long. It is long.
Yeah, you do.
Look at, so one looked like Lil Wayne, and the other one now look like 2 Chainz. So he is leading a revolution and saying, okay, well, since this soft sultan signed the Treaty of Fez, that means we don't have a sultan anymore. So I am the sultan. And we're going to take back the control of Algiers and all these different territories of the empire that fell to French rule. He's a revolutionary. But look at what this man looks like. You see, it's the Le Petit journal. It costs 5 cents. You see it right there, 5 cents. Okay? Look at these towers behind it, the architecture. But look at the people that surrounds him. All Moors. This is what the Moroccans look like, Moors. Okay, continue. A general uprising.
A general uprising in the south of Morocco saw Al-Heba recognized as Sultan in Tarunat, Agadir, in the Dades and Dra regions. He gained a powerful ally in Si Madani, head of the Glua family. With his tribal army, he entered Marrakesh on 18 August 1912 and was proclaimed Sultan there also.
He was also proclaimed their Sultan. So people were going along with him because why? First of all, Abdul Aziz, he got all enamored and caught up with European customs, so he was weak. And his brother promised to stand against French rule, and in the end, succumb to it and sign the Treaty of Fez. So it's like, man, we ain't got these ain't nothing but puppets. And then Sultan Yusuf was installed by the French Republic. So they were looking for someone that would stand up against France, and that's why he gained the popularity and the support. Continue, bro.
Point of interest,
Yes.
just to highlight more exactly what you're talking about, or expound on it here. Um, the Obviously the Sultan right now who is speaking um, is highlighting the fact that there was a previous Sultan, right? Just to bring everything in the picture, in the overall picture here, right? In which right now in today's time, that's what we have going on right now. Not only the supposed right so-called Sultan, Kendon Bay, but there's other groups claiming to be the empire, claiming that they have a Sultan, etc. Right? Um, this also relates to the Moorish Americans, in which that, as it relates to the Blood of Seba, I believe it's called. Um, this is all about how Moors who wanted to cut corners by not paying taxes, etc., basically were taken advantage of by the European powers, such as France in this case. Right? They backed this Sultan and created chaos. Right? So what is the United States doing? They're backing Moorish Americans, further creating chaos. And this is just a repeated pattern. It's just in today's time, these Moorish Americans being backed by the UCCs or whatever colonial law that they're supporting is in truth suppressing themselves. So I just wanted to bring all of this in scope because there's several different things going on several different levels as it relates to what the Sultan Abdul Smith Al Kabir is reading. So this just keep all this in scope, because this touches several different layers of the history of the empire as it relates to today's time as well. All right, so I yield with that.
Islam, and for clarity, they're not backing this Sultan. Who's backing and supporting the Sultan is actually the people. The French government, they're not. That he's their opposition. However, he is not a controlled opposition. Did you hear what I said? He is the opposition, not controlled opposition, meaning they didn't put him there. He appeared in the South, right, with all his followers to challenge and contest French rule and colonial and the colonization of the Empire of Morocco. I continue, brother, with great points of interest, nonetheless. Germane points of interest. Go ahead, bro.
The decisive battle of Sidi Bou Othman with the French took place near Marrakesh on 6 September 1912. Al-Hiba's forces were defeated by the French commanded by Charles Mangin with the loss of some 2,000 tribal warriors. In January 1913, he was driven out of Taroudan, where he had taken refuge after fleeing Marrakesh, by troops led by Thami el Glawi, Tab el Gundafi, and Hada Moui. He was finally welcomed in 1915 in Curtis in the anti-Atlas by a local notable Adi Ahmed. In January, he received a German delegation seeking allies against the French. He was not the only one approached during this period, including Sheriff Muhammad al-Hijami, Muhammad al-Mamun al-Hiba's cousin, and Moha Hamu Zayani. At the end of 1916, Captain Clou Leopold Justinard was sent to Tiznit to monitor the Sultan of Kurdas, whom the German mission led by Edgar Probster was trying to supply with weapons by landing from a submarine at the mouth of the Dry River. In 1917, he miraculously escaped the aerial bombardment of Kurdas. He died of natural causes on June 23rd, 1919, in Kurdas, where his tomb is located. His brother, Merebi Rebo, succeeded him.
Islam, and that's basically the end of that. Obviously, there's probably more. We need to go any deeper into the research. You can do it yourself, but this is just a highlight as to, first of all, that there was a sultan that was a self-proclaimed but yet supported by the people. Sultan. It's kind of like Ibrahim Traore. He committed a coup d'état, but the people supported. You see what I'm saying? For good reasons, to take back the sovereignty of the nation. Same thing with his brother, right? The Blue Sultan. It didn't. He wasn't successful because I mean, you know, he was going against the French government. And he's dealing with a fractured empire because the empire was fractured at the time anyway, and he didn't necessarily have the sovereign full authority across the entire empire. He was building that support and that status within the empire, but so he failed, unfortunately. And then he died from what they say natural causes. He was probably suicided. You know how they do, right? But who was supporting him? Who was supporting this revolutionary sultan?
His people.
People.
Well, okay,
Germany.
externally. There you go. Right? So, what does it say? At the end of 1916, Captain Clou, Leopold Justinard, was sent to Tiznit to monitor the Sultan of Kurdius, whom the German mission led by Edgar Probster was trying to supply with weapons by landing from a submarine at the mouth of the Dry River. You see? So Germany was trying to support this brother because guess what? What did we learn? What did we learn about Germany? That they were
allies
against what? The French
and British
colonization of Morocco. The Sultan, not the Sultan, the Emperor, Willem II, gave a speech in Tangiers supporting the sovereignty and independence of the empire and the Sultan. Remember we went over that? So here you go again, right? In January, he received a German delegation seeking allies against the French. You see? So Germany was the only superpower that had a dispute with France regarding the colonization. Now, side note, look at these names. Dami El Blaoui, Tib El Gundafi, Aida U Mui, Adi U Ahmed, Moha U Hamu Zayani. Does any of that sound European in any way? Or isn't it, have you ever known, is that not very much Blackish? Don't we have those similar names?
Yes, we do.
Yes, sir.
How many Ahmeds you know?
Few.
Gundafi. These are Moroccan names. These people don't look. I say this because I don't want. You got to get away from seeing these names and automatically thinking either European or, in this case, some pale Arab. Adi Ahmed is not a pale Arab. This dude back here, that's Adi Ahmed. This dude over here is the other one. Okay. What's the other name? Right? Adi Ahmed, right? And then we also have Moha Hamu Zayani. That's this guy right here. See yourselves, is my point. See yourselves. So this is who you are. Okay. So that's the story of the Blue Sultan. Ahmed al-Hiba. He was a revolutionary who was pushing back against the French forces in their attempts to colonize the Empire of Morocco. Now let's get into the read for the Treaty of Fez. Protectorate treaty between France and Morocco. Somebody go ahead with that read for me, please.
Signed at Fez on March 30th, 1912. The government of the French Republic and the government of His Sharifian Majesty, desirous of inaugurating a regular regime in Morocco based upon internal order and general
Regime.
Pardon me. Let me start over. The government of the French Republic and the government of His Sharifian Majesty, desirous of inaugurating a regular regime in Morocco based upon internal order and general security, which will make it possible to introduce reforms and to ensure the economic development of the country, have agreed upon the following. Article 1. The government of the French Republic and His Majesty the Sultan have agreed to establish in Morocco a new regime comprising the administrative, judicial, educational, economic, financial, and military reforms which the French government may see fit to introduce within the Moroccan territory.
Which the French government may see fit. You see? So the French Republic and His Majesty the Sultan, so you see the government of the French Republic was said first. And His Majesty the Sultan, not His Majesty the Sultan and the government of the French Republic. That matters. So what did they say over here? Oops, where was that? Right here. What did they say over here? To the French colonial power, let me see, was a leader of an armed resistance to the French colonial power. What did he say? Over here. Right here. Treaty of Fez. So it says, shortly after Ma al-Anyan's death in 1912, the French imposed the Treaty of Fez on the Moroccans. So if we're going to look at the sequential order in which it reads, the government of the French Republic goes first, and His Majesty the Sultan goes second. Signaling what? That His Majesty the Sultan is in a subordinate position to the French Republic. Did y'all hear what I said?
Yes, sir.
And that's the reason why he said, well, we ain't got no Sultan. I'm the Sultan. Al-Hiba, my man. Continue, my good brother.
This regime shall safeguard the religious status, the respect and traditional prestige of the Sultan, the exercise of the Mohammedan religion, and of all religious institutions, in particular those of the Habus. It shall include the organization of a reformed Sharifian mosque. The government of the Republic will come to an understanding with the Spanish government regarding the interests which this government derives from its geographical position and territorial possessions on the Moroccan coast. In like manner, the city of Tangier shall retain its recognized distinctive characteristic, which will determine its municipal organization.
Okay, pause right there. So you see, it shall include the organization of a reformed Sharifian Moxie. So these reforms and these provisions, the provisions that call for these several different reforms, uh, can and shall be employed within the modern empire. So we needed a reformed Sharifian Moxie. You see? What else does it say at the top? We need to reform, right? We need to institute a new regime. We have instituted a new regime based on an ancient empire. Who's the new regime? Me, Akil, Kanye, Marquisha, Cicero, right? Buck, Brother Buck, et cetera, et cetera. That's a new regime. The modern regime has taken the place of an ancient empire, right? And this new regime comprises of a administrative, judicial, educational, economic, financial, and military reforms. We got to implement those things. Follow the blueprint. Make sense? Y'all understand what I'm saying?
Sir.
Right. Article 2.
Article 2. His Majesty the Sultan agrees that henceforth the French government, subject to prior notification to the Moxen, may proceed to such military occupation of the Moroccan territory as it may deem necessary for the maintenance of good order and the security of commercial transactions, and may exercise every police supervision on land and within the Moroccan waters.
So, well, you can tell that the French government wrote this, but I'm conflicted with it being fully imposed 100% by the French government, as if there wasn't any acceptance by the Moroccan government, by the Moroccan Sultan. But either way, it still created a colonial rule over the empire by the French Republic, under which we paid greatly for such an egregious agreement, such as the Treaty of Fez. And so we got to pay honors to Aziz for standing up. Right, he's one of the long lost revolutionaries that we know nothing of. Right, he was the first Huey P. Newton. Right. Earlier on during the fracture of the empire, where that begun. But see, he still had consciousness of the empire, whereas those Moors over here in the West have never has until now still don't possess the consciousness, the understanding, the knowledge itself of the Empire of Morocco and what it represents for us as a people. So you're not going to fight for that. You're fighting for the Black nation. Well, that doesn't exist. So good luck with that. But we haven't gotten anywhere. But His Majesty the Sultan agrees that henceforth the French government, subject to prior notification to the Moxen, you see how even through this they got to go through the Moxen. The Moxen was very powerful, Moors. May proceed to such military occupation of the Moroccan territory as it may deem necessary for the maintenance of good order and the security of commercial transactions. So clearly there was some sort of the empire was in uproar. So they had to bring in the French troops to secure the borders, to secure the territory. But where was the Moroccan troops? This is only a glimpse into the hot mess that we had going on within the empire that caused it to fall to the hands of the French and all the other colonial powers. Continue, brother. Article 3. It saddens me, but it is what it is.
The government of the Republic pledges itself to lend constant support to His Sharifian Majesty against all dangers which might threaten his person or throne or endanger the tranquility of his states. The same support shall be.
You see that? The tranquility of what?
His states.
Is that plural or singular?
It's plural.
Which one are his states? Who are his
All of
states?
them.
No, no, be specific. Tell me some names. Not all of them. All of them who? Who are the states? Come on, Morris. You got to know this. Think about the diplomatic body.
All the signatory powers that signed it
Thank you
too.
very much. Oh my goodness. Come on, Morris. All the countries within each legation, the
Right.
Russian legation, the American legation, the German legation, the
British
Italian
legation.
legation, the Spanish legation, the French legation. The France is one of their states, and they're over here talking greasy like you ain't one of the states that belong to the Sultan. You see the audacity here. That's his states. That's in the Treaty of Madrid as well. His states, all the signatory powers, including France. See, so remember, that's why I said the hint was the diplomatic body, the post where all the states that belonged to the Sultan had a had a mission post as legations. France had one there. Germany had one there. Great Britain, America, so on and so forth. Those are the states that belong to His Majesty the Sultan and the Empire of Morocco, i.e., the European powers, Europe, the colonial powers that's plaguing the world right now. The only ones that are in support of Donald Trump's shenanigans is who? Great Britain, France, and I forgot the other European nation that has spoken out in favor of it. However, Cuba, Colombia, Mexico, and others are condemning it. Imagine that. Imagine that. See, this is nothing more than imperialism, hegemony, and bigotry,
Point of privilege.
manifestations of colonialism.
Point of
Go ahead.
privilege. Now, you see when Trump started talking about all that oil, all that money on this land and all that stuff. You see what I'm saying? So the ones that supporting those ones are gonna get their palms greased.
Yeah,
They all in it together.
that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the European powers, the
Yep.
signatory powers,
Yep.
those that come under the sovereign authority of His Majesty the Sultan and the Empire of Morocco. These are his states.
Yep.
Dare I say, these are my states, but for 7 years. During the time that I'm sitting in the seat, it's my state, but it belongs to the empire. The next sultan, that's his state for 7 years. The next sultan, that's his state for 7 years. But then the next sultan, that's his state for 7 years. It's not a monarchy where it's my states. These are my states for life. It's just for the moment that I'm the sultan for my term limit, meaning that I manage
You
those,
oversee that office.
see them, I manage them, I govern them, I make sure that they don't go broke, make sure that I adhere to their sovereignty and independence, integrity of their domains, and economic liberty, economic liberty, and with no inequality of my states. Because anything against that undermines the the bottom dollar for the empire. You see, so I need them to be successful and prosperous so that the empire can be successful and prosperous. You see, it's not emotions. It's not, oh, they're enslaving us and we got to hang them high. No, you got to get past that. Grow up already. It's over with. Now take back your affairs, take your seat in the affairs of men and govern them accordingly. Govern with competence and the clear understanding of what's what. And what it is they belong to the empire and they pay tax revenues to the empire. So why would you want them to suffer financially? Because then they can't pay their car note. They can't pay their mortgage. You see how it flips around? We need them to maintain their prosperity so that the empire can continue to thrive. But what's not going to happen is all this colonialism crap. What's going to happen is we're going to adhere to the preemptory norms of international law, which is just cogence. What is just cogence? Oh, caught y'all slipping. Somebody tell me what's just cogence. Human rights. Preemptory norms of international law, the highest of all laws is just cogence, human rights. That must be adhered to. Okay, continue, brother. So
Point
we
of
don't we
interest.
get past this. Yes.
I just like to add on to what you said or been saying. Um, as it relates to France um, being a protectorate, right? If we study these different terms, protectorate, extraterritorial jurisdiction, we'll see that basically we're talking about colonialism, to keep it simple. So when we see the buildup of this protege system, right, this protectorate system, this how this extraterritorial jurisdictions are continuously being changed or exercised, we're talking about, for one, the buildup of how colonialism lawfully or legally became a thing, right? Um, on top of that, we're talking about how France got in this particular place and had a particular, uh, I should say, energy signature, if you will, a particular knowledge. So their governance structure was that much more better, I should say, for lack of better words, based on their ability to construct their verbiage in their constitution um, as it relates to this treaty. So it had to be fitting. So what am I saying? I'm saying just as they had to think more outside the box to lawfully govern what they lawfully could govern due to this Treaty of Fez, they had to think out the box, just as we had to do to come with more solutions for the future. So what I'm really saying here is that the constitutional framework that France basically not just the constitution, the governance that France had instituted was on a whole nother level opposed to everybody else who's began to, for lack of better words, bite off of France due to this new wave, if you will, them being the new protectorates. So a lot of people ask, okay, why does our constitution look like France's constitution? Well, if we're talking about picking up where we left off, we're talking about doing that in the most accessible, reasonable, in recent ways. And what are we talking about here? France's activities, all the way up until 1956 and beyond that. They didn't just stop there and say, hey, we know we got obligations to govern the Empire of Morocco. However, none of our government is going to reflect this type of power. No, it was a whole new venue that opened up in many different ways. So we got to understand here the history of the empire and also take this in consideration. The empire was, we were the last ones to catch on to modernizing our state. There was still, like I said, the Bledes, what is it called? The Bledes, what we were just talking about, I forgot the phrase, excuse me. But due to the religious affiliation that the Moors had, they thought that that was sufficient. They didn't have a certain governance structure when it came with certain codifications, specifications, certain documentation, explaining protections on a piece of paper, very codified. That wasn't in the Empire of Morocco. Moors were seeing the European states modernizing themselves and their governance structure and felt that much more protected because they can explain what's going on here more so you can just simply read it. Besides a vague treaty, colonialism going on in your own government, etc. So these are some of the ways in which not only our own people got jealous of, hence that they got jealous of because it was a good governance structure, and hence why our Constitution mimics France's to a good deal, a good portion. So we learn government from the Europeans, right? Not we don't take everything, right? But I just want to put all of this in consideration because I know we've been there's been a few questions behind closed doors and whatnot. So I'm bringing all this to the table so people have more clarity now. And I yield with that.
Point of interest.
Hold on one second, Islam. Let's try to make limit our points, not make it too long because it throws me off because I was heading in a specific direction. But
Okay.
I will say this though, and I'll yield the floor to you, good brother. But let me try to get through the read. It's plain and simple. The French relationship with the Empire of Morocco goes back to the 1600s. They have intimate relations with the Empire of Morocco all the way up to the actual Treaty of Fez, in which that we're reading right now, in which you're seeing that they had governing control over the empire. There's no one who's had this type of relationship with the empire, which means I think it's stand a chance that they learned a lot from the government of the empire. Yes or no? And so that's the reason why. It's not emotions. It's political science. It's competency. It's what makes sense, right? And it's an excellent constitution, but this constitution is based on Moroccan law because all of France, first of all, France is one of the empire's states and has intimate relations. It was a French uh, merchant that the Sultan contracted, right, to appoint as a ambassador of sorts to the United States or an agent for the United States to help them achieve their sovereignty and independence, in case you didn't know that part of the story. So that's how deeply rooted France is with the empire, which is why we use or should I say, why he chose to use the Constitution, which I don't necessarily have a problem with the Constitution. He does, because he doesn't like the word preside. Go ahead, Brother Buck, so we can get back into the reading.
Yeah, I'll make this quick. It's more like a question. I want you to correct me if I'm wrong. Now, throughout the all the humanitarian laws that we have now, colonialism is against the law now, and the only way it can be addressed is if the people stand up to it. Am I right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And one of those laws I just mentioned earlier, a preemptory law. What is that preemptory law? Do y'all recall? I just said it.
Yeah.
What was it?
Just cogents.
There you go. That's human rights. Colonialism undermines human rights, especially the manifestations of it. Because see, it's not like they're nice to the indigenous people. They're criminal. They're criminals towards the. They're you know what I mean? Very oppressive, barbaric, murderous, dare I say. But we can't forget our place in history and what we did to them. But that's another story. Let's go ahead and continue with the reading so we can complete the Treaty of Fez, because we got to go into. I really want to get to this correspondence with the Europe with colonial powers dealing with the Moors here in America. Go ahead, brother.
Same support shall be given to the heir The same support shall be given the heir to the throne and his successors. Article 4. Such measures as the new regime of the protectorate may require shall be established by decree upon the proposal of the French government, by his Sharifian Majesty or the authorities to whom he may have delegated his power. The same procedure shall be observed in the matter of new regulations and of modifications of the existing regulations. Article 5. The French government shall be represented to his Sharifian Majesty by a commissioner resident general, representative of all the power of the Republic in Morocco, who shall attend to the execution of the present agreement. The commissioner resident general shall be the sole intermediary between the Sultan and foreign representatives and in the relations which these representatives maintain with the Moroccan government. In particular, he shall have charge of all matters relating to foreigners in the Sharifian Empire. He shall have the power to approve and promulgate on behalf of the French government all the decrees issued by his Sharifian Majesty. Article 6.
Hold on a second. I want you to remember this. This part where it says, the commissioner resident general shall be the sole intermediary between the Sultan and foreign representatives, and in the relations which these representatives maintain with the Moroccan government. Remember that statement. Continue, bro.
Oh. Article 6. The diplomatic and consular agents of France shall be charged with the representation and protection of Moroccan subjects and interests abroad. His Majesty the Sultan pledges himself not to conclude any
Remember that statement as well. The diplomatic and consular agent of France shall be charged with the representation, shall be charged with the representation and protection of Moroccan subjects, Moorish subjects, Black people, and interest abroad. So the diplomatic and consular agents of France shall be charged with the representation and protection. Okay, continue.
His Majesty the Sultan pledges himself not to conclude any act of an international nature without the previous approval of the French Republic. Article 7. The government of the French Republic and the government of his Sharifian Majesty reserve unto themselves the right to determine by mutual agreement the basis of a financial reorganization, which, while respecting the rights conferred upon bondholders of the Moroccan public loans, shall make it possible to guarantee the commitments of the Sharifian treasury and to collect regularly the revenues of the empire.
So you see who's got to collect the revenues of the empire? So isn't this what they were arguing at the ICJ in 1952? The French were in charge with collecting the revenues of the empire because the Moors were too busy not doing what they're supposed to. Go ahead, bro.
Article 8. His Sharifian Majesty declares that in future he will refrain from contracting, directly or indirectly, any public or private loan, and from granting in any form whatever any concession without the authorization of the French government. Article 9. The present treaty shall be submitted to the government of the French Republic for ratification, and the instrument of the said ratification shall be handed without delay to His Majesty the Sultan, in faith whereof the undersigned have drawn up the present act and have affixed their seals thereto. Fez, March 30th, 1912, 11 Rebaya 1330.
And that concludes the Treaty of Fez. So we see where the French government has seized basically all power and authority, even in foreign matters, including the protections of the Moroccan subjects by way of the Treaty of Fez, and then proceeded to install another sultan, a new sultan, Sultan Yusuf. I'll forget his last name, right? As the sultan to represent the empire for that time being, which then became somehow Muhammad V. But what matters now is where is it? Right here. The American Journal of International Law. France-Morocco Joint Declaration. Go ahead and read that for me, good brother.
Signed at Paris, March 2nd, 1956. The government of the French Republic and His Majesty Mohammed V, Sultan of Morocco, hereby solemnly state their determination to make fully operative the Declaration of La Salle St. Cloud of November 6, 1955. They note that in view of Morocco's advance along the road to progress, the Treaty of Fez of March 30th, 1912 is no longer consistent with the requirements of modern life and can no longer govern Franco-Moroccan relations. Consequently, the government of the French Republic hereby solemnly confirms its recognition of the independence of Morocco, which implies in particular the right to a diplomacy and an army, as well as its determination to respect and to see to it that others respect the integrity of Moroccan territory as guaranteed by international treaties. The government of the French Republic and His Majesty Mohammed V, Sultan of Morocco, hereby declare that the purpose of the negotiations, which have just opened in Paris between Morocco and France as equal and sovereign states, is to conclude new agreements which will define the interdependence of the two countries in the fields where they have common interests. Will thus organize their cooperation on a basis of liberty and equality, especially in matters of defense, foreign relations, economy, and equality. Pardon me. Especially in matters of defense, foreign relations, economy, and culture, and will guarantee the rights and liberties of French persons settled in Morocco and of Moroccans settled in France, with due respect for the sovereignty of the two states.
Let's go up for a second. What does it say here? You see this little, look at the language. The government of the French Republic and His Majesty Mohammed V, Sultan of Morocco, hereby declare that the purpose of the negotiations, which have just opened in Paris between Morocco and France, as equal and sovereign states. Why did you have to highlight that? Why did you have to even say that? Because you have always been not so equal, huh? You've always been subordinate. But this is a fork-tongued document because one moment you're referring to him as Sultan Mohammed, Sultan of Morocco. His Majesty Mohammed V, Sultan of Morocco. So how y'all see? So even in signing this, he's still the Sultan. It serves our purpose, right? Because the Treaty of the Act of Algeciras, is this not an agreement at last? All agreements, arrangements, treaties, and what have you, with the signatory powers, the stipulations of the Act of Algeciras shall prevail. Right? Which means that which is not even a treaty, it's a so-called joint declaration that doesn't have any standing. Not to the empire reemerging and invoking the Act of Algeciras, which prevails over this agreement, which is not even an agreement. It's merely a declaration. It's not an agreement. It's not a treaty. It's a joint declaration. Oh, that's lesser than a treaty, and definitely lesser than the Act of Algeciras. Did y'all hear what I said? Go ahead and finish that reading, bro.
Sir. The government of the French Republic and His Majesty Mohammed V, Sultan of Morocco, hereby agree that pending the entry into force of these agreements, the new relations between France and Morocco shall be founded on the provisions of the annexed protocol to the present declaration, done at Paris in two original copies on March 2nd, 1956. Signed Christian Pinot and Barak Bakar. Annexed protocol. Number 1. The legislative power shall be exercised as a sovereign right by His Majesty the Sultan. The representative of France shall be advised of draft dahirs and decrees. During the transitional period, he shall have the right to submit observations on these texts when they concern the interests of France, French nationals, or foreigners. Number 2. His Majesty Mohammed V, Sultan of Morocco, shall have at his disposal a national army. France will render assistance to Morocco in the.
Well, I guess that's where they ended. But the agreement was signed, sealed, and delivered on March 2nd, 1956, done at Paris in 2 original copies. Okay? Now, so we've seen what? The establishment of the French protectorate and the dissolution of it. Which this dissolution, this document, this France Morocco or Franco Morocco joint declaration, right? It establishes the sovereignty, or should I say the independence, so-called independence of the how do I put this? Kingdom of Morocco. That was once the Empire of Morocco. Understood? Make sense? Okay. All right, so now let's see what they're talking about. Let's see what those who know you and I better than you and I know each other or ourselves. Let's see what they're talking about. Go ahead and read that for me, bro.
Morocco. French protectorate in Morocco. Relinquishment of extraterritorial jurisdiction by certain foreign powers. Attitude of the United States. File number 881.00-531. The French ambassador to the Secretary of State. French Embassy, Washington, January 8, 1913. Mr. Secretary of State, by order of my government, I have the honor to communicate herewith to Your Excellency the text of the Franco-Moroccan Protectorate Treaty that was signed at Fez on March 30th, 1912. The assurances Your Excellency was pleased to give me heretofore as to the establishment of the French Protectorate in Morocco lead me to hope that the federal government will see no objection to giving its adhesion to that instrument. The French government will be glad to be so assured. Your Excellency will note that under Article 6 of the aforesaid treaty, the diplomatic and consular officers of France will be in charge of the representation and protection of Moroccan subjects and interests abroad.
You
A
see how you
limitation.
spit it? You see how you spit it back out? Spit it right at them? Remember I told y'all to remember that statement? So, who is it? The French Embassy to the Secretary of State of the United States on January 3rd, 1913, following what? The drafting and ratification of the Treaty of Fez, where France was given the power of the pen of the empire. You see the sequential order? So he invokes it here. I have the honor to communicate herewith to Your Excellency the text of the Franco-Moroccan Protectorate Treaty that was signed at Fez on March 30th, 1912. So he enclosed it and sent it with this letter. Basically showing out. We have the power of the pen of the Empire of Morocco and His Majesty the Sultan, United States. And then he starts to invoke or point out certain articles. And this particular article deals with what? The protections of who? Moroccan subjects. That's in your jurisdiction, United States. Let's continue reading.
A limitation, however, was put upon the provisions by the Franco-Spanish Treaty of November 27th, last of which I had the honor to communicate to the Department of State on the 29th of the same month. Article 23 of that treaty provides that the Moroccan subjects belonging in the zone of Spanish influence shall be placed abroad under the protection of the diplomatic and consular officers of Spain.
You see how they're talking about the protections of the Moroccan subjects? They're lost at sea. They need protections. Okay, continue.
The Secretary of State to the French Ambassador, Department of State, Washington, January 22nd, 1913. Excellent.
So that's the
Excellency.
United States responding back to France. The Secretary of State to the French ambassador. So they're corresponding back and forth. So now this is the first one was the French government talking to the United States. Now it's the United States responding back to the French government. And why is it that they want to have these protections over the Moroccan? Why do they keep invoking the protections of the Moroccan nationals? Or should I say the Moroccan subjects? Because the Moroccan subjects represent the wealth,
Are really the heirs.
represent the land. They are the heirs. So we siphon the wealth through them. You see? Continue, bro.
Excellency, I have the honor to acknowledge the receipt of Your Excellency's note on the 8th instant transmitting the text of the Franco-Moroccan Protectorate Treaty signed at Fez on March 30th, 1912, and asking the adhesion of the government of the United States thereto. Relations. Following the traditional American foreign policy, which forbids participation by the United States in the settlement of political questions which are entirely European in their scope, the government must refrain from any expression of opinion for or against such part or parts of the Franco-Moroccan Protectorate Treaty as may be deemed of a political nature.
Okay, well, right there. So where he says the United States in the settlement of political questions, which are entirely European in their scope, the government must refrain from any expressions of opinion for or against such part or parts of the Franco-Moroccan Protectorate Treaty. So, what is he referring to? Remember the Roosevelt letter? That's what Roosevelt said. He's literally quoting President Roosevelt, where he said that the United States has no political interest in Morocco, and that their foreign policy, right, is European in its scope. Y'all recall that?
Yes.
They're literally quoting President Roosevelt back in 1906.
Mm-hmm.
So they're telling France, "Hey man, we ain't got no place. We hey man, I can't do nothing for you. I'm subordinate.
We ain't got no say so in none of
I ain't
that.
got no say so around here, bro. What you talking about?" But see, I want to know about them taxes, and I want to know about the Moors. That's what they're talking about. Continue reading, your brother.
Paragraph 1 of Article 1 of this treaty provides that the government of the French Republic and His Majesty the Sultan mutually agree to establish in Morocco such administrative, judicial, educational, economical, financial, and military reforms as the French government may deem it desirable to introduce in Moroccan territory. And further, paragraph 2, Article 5 provides that the French commissioner resident shall be the sole intermediary of the Sultan in all foreign relations. By the terms of Article 1, the government of the French Republic practically assumes all the powers of government in Morocco.
All the powers. Now, isn't that similar to something that goes, Jermaine D. Spencer, listen up. Isn't that similar to the Sultan shall be the sovereign authority, shall preside over the prime minister as the absolute sovereign authority over all matters, political, legal, judicial, right, economic, social, education, military affairs.
Salam.
Is that not in alignment? Same thing.
Exact same thing. Yep.
But now France has it. So now you see where France get the idea of that provision or article within the French Constitution that ended up in the Moroccan Constitution. You see this? You see how it all lines up, Moors? Just a little studying and everything comes together for you. And people, snakes like Jermaine D. Spencer cannot pull the wool over your eyes. You see? Continue, brother.
By the terms of Article 1, the government of the French Republic practically assumes all the powers of government in Morocco. And as a natural corollary thereto,
Corollary.
Pardon me, corollary thereto, it assumes also the obligations of the Moroccan government in its relations with foreign governments, insofar as existing treaty rights between Morocco and foreign governments are concerned. As Your Excellency is aware, adhesion on the part of the government of the United States to any treaty under our Constitution can only be given by and with the advice and consent of the United States Senate, and after careful considerations of the Franco-Moroccan Protectorate Treaty, this government is of the opinion that it is not sufficiently detailed and concrete in its provisions to permit of submission to this country's treaty-making power. Provided, however, the government of the French Republic is willing to give its assurance that American interests and rights in Morocco are at present safeguarded by existing treaties, shall continue to receive the same consideration in the future as they have been entitled to and have enjoyed in the past. On such an understanding, the government of the United States would be inclined to view with favor the reforms which the French Protectorate contemplate introducing into Morocco as provided for in the treaty in question.
You see that quite? You see? Did y'all catch on to that last paragraph?
Yes,
Let's
sir.
read it again. Provided, however, so we can't get involved in all this. However, the government of the French Republic is willing. Provided, however, the government of the French Republic is willing to give its assurance that American interests and rights in Morocco. Can y'all still hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
As are
sir.
at present
Beautiful.
safeguarded by existing treaties, shall continue to receive the same consideration in the future as they have been entitled to and have enjoyed in the past. You see?
They're giving it back to us.
They want to maintain their position within the Empire of Morocco by way of the treaty relations, starting with the Treaty of Peace and Friendship.
Mm-hmm.
They want to make sure that the French Republic is not going to take that away from them.
Right.
Because the French Republic now got the power and authority, which is what Al-Hiba had a problem with. Because then that means we don't have a sultan. The French is the sultan. Nah, hell no. I'm rising up and I'm going to be known as a self-proclaimed sultan, the blue sultan, to combat this French problem. You see? So the United States, whatever y'all do, can we please maintain our rights and privilege afforded to us by these treaties that we enjoyed in the past? We want to continue to enjoy it in the future, and that's the same thing that they're going to ask of us when the time comes, and that time is getting ready to come. All right, good brother. Now, what does the French government has to say in response to that?
French Embassy. The French charged the affairs to the Secretary of State. French Embassy, Washington, October 7, 1913. Mr. Secretary of State, by order of my government, I have the honor to forward herewith to Your Excellency 2 copies of the official bulletin of the Morocco Protectorate promulgating the new judiciary system in the French zone of the Sharifian Empire, together with a copy of the Journal Officiel of the French Republic of September 9, 1913, which also contains the decree relating to that organization. The new judiciary system instituted by virtue of the provisions in paragraph 2 of Article 9 of the Franco-German Treaty of November 4, 1911, is intended to supersede the French consular courts on and after October 15, 1913. In accordance with the provisions of the aforesaid article, I have been instructed to ask the federal government to place its citizens under the new jurisdiction. I shall hasten to forward to my government the reply Your Excellency will be so good as to return to me on the subject. The Acting Secretary of State to the French Ambassador, Washington, Department of State, Washington, February 13, 1914. Excellency, the department has the honor to make reply to the embassy's notes of August 29th, September 14th, October 7th, and January 7th. Last, relative to the establishment of the French Protectorate in Morocco and the revision of the list of American protégés in that country. In the first note above mentioned, the department is informed in relation to the establishment of the French protectorate that, owing to the inadequacy of the means theretofore employed to prevent the smuggling of arms and munitions of war into Morocco, General Lyautey had decided to declare martial law within the zone of French influence in Morocco in the matter of contraband of arms. In the informal note of September 14th, Mr. Peretti, who was then acting as charge d'affaires ad interim, made known the wish of his government that this government would give instructions to its representative at Tangier, looking to the designation of a delegate to assist in the revision of the protection lists of people lying under the American jurisdiction. Mr. Peretti added that it was not possible to accept the reserve of the United States relative to the right of foreign representatives to act in the last resort upon the decision of the Moxon in regard to the natives who should enjoy the protection of a foreign government. With his note of October 7th, Mr. Peretti transmitted to the department copies of the official bulletin of the Morocco Protectorate, promulgating the new judiciary system in the French zone of the Sharifian Empire. Mr. Peretti called attention to the fact that the new judiciary system was intended to supersede the French consular courts on and after October 15, 1913, and under instructions asked this government to place its citizens under the new jurisdiction. Finally, with your note of the 7th of January last, you transmitted to the department a list of errata in the Bulletin official and requested that the new French courts in Morocco be recognized at the earliest possible date. Turning first to the subject of the revision of the protege list mentioned in Mr. Peretti's notes on September 14th, it is proper to state that the protection
Okay, make this make sense. French consular court. Help me make sense out of that. French consular courts. How is that? Huh?
There is no French consular court.
What does the consular courts pertain to? Attached to?
Moroccan consular court.
But that's all it could be. How we end up with a French consular court? See, that's colonialism.
They were leeching off the empire.
Mm-hmm. Colonizing, that's what colonialism is. Leeching off of the country. Leeching off of the country and the people. That's what colonialism is. So you say the French consular courts. That's the reason why it was kicked out in the ICJ. Because you got nothing but Frenchmen in those courts. Where are the Moors? It's supposed to be a Moroccan consular court, not a French consular court. Excuse me? They got drunk on the power, Moors. That's the point.
Exactly.
They got drunk on the power. Continue.
All right. Turning first to the subject of the revision of the protege list mentioned in Mr. Peretti's note of September 14th, it is proper to state that the protection of native Moors in Morocco by this government rests upon its treaty with Morocco of 1836 and the Madrid Convention of 1880.
Oh. Let's be clear on who is talking. The acting Secretary of State to the French ambassador, February 13, 1914, Department of State. So the United States in 1914 said this to the French government. Read that again, please.
Turning first to the subject of the revision of the proteges list mentioned in Mr. Peretti's note of September 14th, it is proper to state that the protection of native Moors in Morocco by this government rests upon its treaty with Morocco of 1836 and the Madrid Convention of 1880. The relevant part of the Treaty of 1836 is found in Article 15, which reads as follows. Merchants of both countries shall employ only such interpreters and such other persons to assist them in their business as they shall think proper.
Pause right there. Back up. You see? You see? The protection of native Moors in Morocco by this government. This government is in Morocco. The native Moors are in Morocco. This land is Morocco. They are telling you that. They ain't even telling you that. See, that's the part that you got to catch too. They're not even talking to you. They're talking about you. They ain't talking to you. So you can't think or say, well, they're trying to deceive me. They ain't talking to you. So they ain't trying to deceive you nothing. They're talking to their counter colonists, their colleagues. They're talking to their colonial buddies of the West. They're talking about you. They're talking to them about you. They're not talking to you. So right now you're basically a fly on the wall. When you're a fly on the wall, you get the truth. They ain't talking. If they were talking to you directly, okay, you can question that. You can make or at least you can make a case for it, for questioning it. But when you're eavesdropping per se, you're hearing the truth. So the protection of native Moors in Morocco by this government rests upon its treaty with Morocco of 1836. Excuse me. So they're not talking about Morocco over there, because why would they be protecting native Moors over there if they're over here? They were specific. They said by this government, and that's the United States talking. So it's talking about the United States protecting native Moors in Morocco, because they know that the United States of America is in Morocco. The land is Morocco. It's not Amaru Khan, Turtle Island.
Talking about this vast empire over
The
here.
weirdo guy, copper colored on TikTok, he done switched up. Now he says, "Oh, it's Turtle Island." Okay, well, what's the nationality for Turtle Island? First of all, it's not an island. But what's the nationality for Turtle Island? Turtle Islanders? Is that your nationality? What do you go by? Turtle Island is a nickname. It's not the
That's
name of the land, and
funny.
it's not even an island. Here's the white man talking to each other. They telling you it's in Morocco. You're in Morocco. They are in Morocco. This is Morocco. And you are the native Moors. So the people are named after the land is named after the people. Morocco, Moors. Can't spell Morocco without the word Moors. So the white man is telling you that they have the protections over the native Moors in Morocco by their government based on the Treaty of Peace and Friendship and the Treaty of Madrid of 1880. I'm glad you said that, because that means you're going to have to honor Article 15, Paragraph 1 of the same Treaty of Madrid, 1880. Don't act brand new on me. Continue, brother. There's more to be said.
The Convention of 1880 declares in Article 1 that the protection of native Moors is based on the British and Spanish treaties with Morocco and on the Convention of 1863 between France, Morocco, and other powers, with the modifications introduced by the present convention, and stipulates in Article 16 that the authorities of Morocco will recognize no protection of any kind whatever, save such as is expressly provided for in this convention.
Okay, so you see, he's talking again. The Convention of 1880 declares in Article 1 that the protection of native Moors, you keep talking about the protections of native Moors. And it claims that it's based on the British and Spanish treaties. So we got to study the British and Spanish treaties with Morocco. And on the Convention of 1863 between France, Morocco, and other powers. Right?
Wow.
So, who are the native Moors? You're native. They're telling you that you're from this land, and they're telling you that you're a Moor, and that the land is Morocco. In other words, you don't come from Africa. But someone with the African mindset, FBA or whatever, they'll read this and it'll go over their heads because they don't see themselves in that. They're looking for black something, African something. Well, they're talking the truth here amongst themselves. And it's not black, it's not African, nothing. It's Moroccan, Morocco, and Moors. Moorish nation. Continue, brother. After careful examination.
After a careful examination of the several articles of the Madrid Convention relative to the protection of American proteges, the department is unable to reach the conclusion that the Moorish government enjoys the right ultimately to decide upon the persons who may become proteges of this government. On the contrary, Article 2 of the convention provides that foreign representatives at the head of a legation may select their interpreters and employees from among the subjects of Morocco or others. And
You
Article
see
3
that?
provides
Keep going. And I'll let you go ahead. My bad. And Article 3 provides.
and Article 3 provides that the consular officers shall be allowed to select their employees. By Article 5 of the same convention, the government of Morocco recognizes the right of ministers, charge d'affaires, and other representatives, which is granted to them by treaties, to select the persons whom they employ. In regard to the list of protected persons, the convention is equally precise, as appears by Articles 7 and 8, which read as follows.
Okay, well, right there. First of all, this is 1914, right?
Right.
And is the United States talking still, correct?
Yes,
Look
sir.
at look at. Didn't they just recognize the Moorish government?
Yes, sir.
Look at careful examination of the several articles of the Madrid Convention relative to the protection of American proteges. Those are the Moors. Those are the Moors. They didn't say black people. American pro. Notice that they in another section they said American citizens. Now they're saying American proteges. It's a distinction. But it's black people. The department is unable to reach the conclusion that the Moorish government enjoys the right ultimately to decide upon the persons who may become proteges of this government. So the Moorish government decided who would be the proteges of that government, which is the United States. On the contrary, Article 2 of the convention provides that foreign representatives at the head of what? A legation may select their interpreters and employees among the subjects of Morocco. Mm-hmm. You see how they're breaking this down for you? The Treaty of Madrid.
Mhm.
So the head of the legation, Russian legation, American legation, German legation, so on and so forth, right? The head of the legation may select their interpreters and employees from among subjects of Morocco, i.e., black people, i.e., Obama, Colin Powell, Maxine Waters. Those are the proteges that come under the um, protections of the government of the foreign nation, which in this case is the United States.
Order from back some.
What was that? Okay. Somebody got to mute themselves, I suppose. So you see, they recognize the Moorish government as still being in existence back in 1914. What is Moorish? Who are the Moorish? Help me out. Who are the Moors? Who are the Moorish? What's the Moorish government? Who are those? What nationality or identification does that attach itself to, or comes from, or is represented by? Black people, come on, y'all, wake up.
No. Blacks, African Americans,
Yes, that's their
Indians.
government. That's their government, the Moorish government, in the proper term. If you want to be improper, if you want to be connotative linguistic, you'll say the black government. If you want to be proper, politically correct, you'll say the Moorish government. They're interchangeable. I'm sorry. Black is Moorish. Moorish is black. Not um denotatively, but certainly connotatively, for sure. Because the Moors are the black people. So the Moorish government is the black government in their proper person. So when you see Moorish, you're seeing yourself, is my point. FBA, Indians, Africans, Pan-African, whatever you, back to Africa, UNIA, Marcus Garvey, whatever. When you see Moorish, you're seeing yourself. Okay, brother, continue. Article 7.
Article 7. Foreign representatives shall inform the Sultan's Minister of Foreign Affairs in writing of any selections of any employee made by them. They shall furnish annually to the said minister a list of the names of persons protected by them or by their agents throughout the states of the Sultan of Morocco.
Throughout what?
Throughout the states of the Sultan of Morocco.
Isn't that what the Treaty of Fez said? The tranquility of his states.
That's everywhere. That's Germany, Spain, Britain.
And you see they're invoking it or speaking of it on Article 7 of the Treaty of Madrid.
Oh.
Now, and then furthermore, this is where you see that we get the concept and the idea from the protected persons list. So the protected persons list is to be compiled and transmitted by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And sent to the American government, which we've done. But we need an updated version now, because a lot of those people who were holding certain positions have been removed, lawfully, legally, and constitutionally removed. Therefore, the new protected persons list shall reflect the same. Make sense? Islam, continue, please.
The list shall be transmitted to the local authorities, who shall consider as persons enjoying protection only those whose names are contained therein.
Sarah, you need to mute yourself. Thank you. Go ahead, bro.
Article 8. Consular officers shall transmit each year to the authorities of the district in which they reside a list bearing their seal of the persons protected by them. These authorities shall transmit it to the Minister of Foreign Affairs to the end that if it be not conformable to the regulations, the representatives at Tangier may be informed of the fact. A consular officer shall be required to give immediate information of any changes that may have taken place amongst the persons protected by his consulate. Regarding the appointment of proteges for signal services, the convention provides Article 16 that the Minister of Foreign Affairs at Tangier shall be previously informed of the nature of the services and notified of the intention to award them, in order that he may, if need be, present his observations thereon. Yet the final decision shall be reserved for the government to which the service shall have been rendered.
I appreciate them skipping past Article 15 and going straight into Article 16. You've seen that, right? Okay. I didn't miss that. Continue.
Concerning the protection of the native employees of private persons, the Treaty of 1836 appears to contain no stipulation, but in Article 9 and 10 of the Conventions of 1880, there are found the following provisions. Article 9. Servants, farmers, and other native employees of native secretaries and interpreters shall not enjoy protection. The same shall be the case with Moorish employees or servants of foreign subjects.
You see what they're invoking. So you skip past Article 15 and you go straight into servant, servant status of Moorish employees, right? You see, this is how we ended up in a position, in a lower class position. This wizardry right here. You're not even considering or even glossing over Article 15, the right to return to Morocco. Choose the entire submission, paragraph 1. Instead, you want to keep talking about employee status, farmers, servants, and other native employees of native secretaries and interpreters shall not enjoy protections. Native, all this native stuff, that's the who. What he said earlier, native Moors. The natives are the native Moors. The same shall be the case with Moorish employees or servants of foreign subjects. You see the position that we allowed ourselves to be placed in with the assistance of the Moorish government. But why is the Moorish government allowing that? Well, we have to look at our actions, the actions of the people, the regular commoners, the subjects of Morocco. But it starts with the top, the leadership at the top. The Sultan was weak. I mean, Abdul Aziz took the throne at 16. And up until then, all his studies was based in religion, not even nothing political. So you're a 16-year-old adolescent. Voice still squeaking. You're still wet behind your ears. Breath still smelling like Similac. And on top of that, you don't have no study. You ain't been studying nothing about political science or anything like that. It's just been strictly religious. And then you become enamored with European culture. And then you want to take on European culture. And then you allow yourself to become a puppet to the Europeans. How are the people to respect such leadership? And it's a monarchy, so they don't have a choice. So that fed into the upheaval of the internal affairs of the empire dealing with the Moors, which caused the further fracturing of the empire. The collapse was feeding on itself. You can clearly see it in this read. Continue, brother.
Nevertheless, the local authorities shall not arrest an employee or servant of a native officer in the service of a legation or consulate, or of a foreign subject or protected person, without having notified the authority upon which he is dependent. If a subject of Morocco in the service of a foreign subject shall kill or wound any person or violate his domicile, he shall be arrested immediately. But the diplomatic or consular authority under which he is shall be notified without delay.
So that's the Moors. If a subject of Morocco in the service of a foreign subject shall kill or wound any person or violate his domicile, he shall be arrested immediately. But the diplomatic or consular authority under which he is shall be notified without delay. You see? So if one of our nationals get arrested, they need to notify who? The consular authority. Who is that? Kyrie. Where is his contact information? On the back of the ID card. You see? Continue, brother.
Article 10. Nothing is changed with regards to the situation of brokers, as established by the treaties and by the Convention of 1863, except what is stipulated relative to taxes in the following articles. Inasmuch as the Madrid Convention refers in Article 1 to the Convention of 1863 between France, Morocco, and other powers regarding the protection of native Moors, and to the British and Spanish treaties with Morocco on the same subject, it is approximate to examine the provisions of these treaties on the subject. The provisions of the Convention of 1863 appear to be substantially the same as the regulations relative to protection adopted by common consent by the legation of France and the government of Morocco August 19th, 1863, reprinted in Treaties in Force, 1904, at the end of the Madrid Convention. The regulations are in part as follows.
Notice that they mentioned the legation of France. You see, by the legation of France, they all had a legation at the diplomatic body because the diplomatic body is where the Sultan housed all his states. You see, continue, brother.
Protected persons are divided into two classes. The first class comprises natives employed by the legation and by the various French consular officers. Second class consists of native factors, brokers, or agents employed by the French merchants for their business affairs. French protection is not extended to natives employed by French citizens in agricultural occupations. It is, moreover, understood that the agricultural laborers, herdsmen, or other native peasants in the service of French citizens shall not be legally prosecuted without immediate information thereof being communicated to the competent consular officer in order that the latter may protect the interests of his countrymen.
Okay. It is moreover understood that agricultural laborers picking cotton, agricultural laborers, herdsmen, or other native peasants in the service of French citizens. What that sound like?
Slavery?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some bullshit.
You can replace French citizens to American citizens. You can say it is moreover understood that agricultural laborers, herdsmen, or other native peasants in the service of American citizens. What was that guy's name that took that what's his name? Dred Scott took the court. Something Sanford. If I recall. I think John Sanford, something Sanford. That was an American citizen. And Dred Scott was in his service. Continue, bro.
The list of all protected persons shall be delivered by the proper consulate to the competent magistrate of the place, who shall likewise be informed of any changes that may subsequently be made in the said list. Each protected person shall be furnished with a card in French and in Arabic, mentioning his name and stating the services which secure this privilege to him. All these cards shall be issued by the legation of France at Tangier.
The legation of France shall issue these cards. Right? Don't you recall in some of these slavery movies, the free men always got a card? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
They'll present a card. I mean, I'm free. I'm a free man. I don't know what you're talking about.
Called us some paperwork.
Mm-hmm. See, this is all
Freedmen's Bureau.
This is all based in treaty relations. But clearly it wasn't everyone either. Because you had the authorities of the Moorish government that was still in operation at the same time. So it was some of the subjects of Morocco. It wasn't all of them. So this is why this is where you see that it's really more a prisoner of war. You're prisoners of war. You're prisoners. You're exiled on your own homeland by law, treaty law, treaty relations.
Abdul Aziz.
And we're stuck until we reenact or bring back the Empire of Morocco. That's what frees us from the exile status. We exile because we don't have our own jurisdiction. We're subject to American jurisdiction. Continue, brother. And notice that the card is issued again by the legation of France, the French legation.
The British and Spanish treaties mentioned in Article 1 of the Madrid Convention are presumably the General Treaty of December 9th, 1856 between Great Britain and Morocco, and the Treaty of Commerce and Navigation of November 20th, 1861 between Spain and Morocco. In the British treaty, it is specifically provided that the charge d'affaires and the consular officers of Great Britain shall be at liberty to choose their own employees, and that British subjects shall be free to commit their affairs to the management of any persons whom they may appoint as their broker, factor, or agent. Nor, says the treaty, shall such British subjects be restrained in their choice of persons to act in such capacities. The Spanish treaty provides that the charge d'affaires or consul general may choose his interpreters and servants from amongst the Mussulman subjects or amongst those of any other country. That other consular officers may name employees, either Mussulmans or subjects of another country, and that Spanish merchants may put their affairs into the hands of brokers or agents appointed by themselves, and they shall not be interfered with, nor shall obstacles be raised to the free choice of the persons to fulfill this charge.
And by the way, Muslim means the Moors.
Oh.
That's who that is. Continue, brother.
It would
from an Islamic perspective, by the way, for further clarity. Go ahead.
It would therefore seem that the choice of the proteges of the United States and Morocco
hold up. Don't gloss over that. Let's repeat it.
Whoa. It would therefore seem that the choice of the proteges of the United States in Morocco.
Where's the United States?
In Morocco.
Again, it's them talking to each other now. The United States is in Morocco. Period. End of discussion. So therefore, that absolutely kills the argument that you're some American. Moorish American, African American, Black American. It's all the same daggone thing. It's all a misnomer. It's a misrepresentation of who you are. It's a denationalization of self if you keep standing on that. While the colonists are speaking to each other and they're telling each other, they're speaking the truth to each other regarding the United States being in Morocco. There's no confusion. What the Moors like to cling to principles that allude to slavery. That's the confusion. That's the problem. Right. Stop clinging and study and course correct as you study. As you continue to study, you continue to learn new information. You continue to course correct till you come to the full fruition. Right? The fruition in your journey. You don't just say, "Oh, well, this is America because Noble Drew Ali said so." No, he didn't even say that. He said, "You're the founders and true possessors of the Moroccan Empire." That's what he said. He didn't say the founders and true possessors of the American Empire. He said Moroccan Empire. So if that's what he said about the Moroccan Empire, then how are you an American? You're an American by naturalization, i.e. denationalization. You were denationalized from being a Moroccan to become and converted into an American, i.e. the thorough and speedy Americanization of the former Moors. But they said, clear as day, it would therefore seem that the choice of the proteges of the United States in Morocco. So earlier he said the protections of the native Moors in Morocco by this government. You see, he's not talking about Morocco over there because he's talking about this government, the United States. So then that means you're talking about over here. And then he further confirmed it further down in the read. The United States is in Morocco. So the native Moors is in Morocco. The United States is in Morocco. We're all in Morocco. But you're subordinate to Morocco because you're in Morocco. See, that's the part they don't want to deal with. Continue, brother.
It would therefore seem that the choice of the proteges of the United States in Morocco rests by right of treaty, ultimately with this government.
Mm-hmm.
Such appears to be the view which this department has always taken of the Convention of 1880, and which has been the basis of its action in carrying out the provisions of that convention. The question of the choice of proteges is, however, in the view of this government, but a phase of the larger question involved in the establishment of French and Spanish control over separate portions of Morocco. On the subject of the French protectorate, this government has heretofore expressed itself as being in favor of the reforms which France contemplated introducing into Morocco in accordance with the stipulations of the Franco-Moroccan Treaty of March 30th, 1912, on the understanding that provision be made for the preservation of American interests and rights in Morocco, commercial or otherwise, which are at present safeguarded by existing treaties with that country. The more important of those interests and rights it is proper now to enumerate. In the first place, attention may be drawn to the right of aliens to hold land in the Sharifian Empire. This right appears now to be based upon the provisions of the Madrid Convention and the Algeciras Act. With a view to carry out Article 60 of the Algeciras Act, the Sultan's foreign minister on December 5th, 1912, sent to the diplomatic corps at Tangier a set of regulations classifying the public domain of the empire and defining inalienable property and alienable property. These regulations also laid down certain rules to govern the sale of the latter class of property to foreigners.
Okay, let's back up just a little bit. I don't know if y'all heard what the brother just read and what they refer to themselves as.
Aliens in the
Thank you.
Sharifian Empire.
Thank you. In the first place, attention may be drawn to the right of aliens to hold land. Hold. Remember we were talking about that? Not own, hold. I know it rhymes a little bit, but it's not the same word. It don't have the same meaning or enforcement power. We own, they hold. In the first place, attention may be drawn. So you see, first, let's go back. The more important of those interests, see, they're trying to maintain their interests in Morocco. But the most important interest and rights, right, is the right to hold property. So they are aliens because they're foreigners. They're not illegal aliens. We don't go that far because they do have that treaty. They're legal aliens, but aliens nonetheless. So someone tell me what Malcolm X said about Plymouth Rock. What was it that he said?
Plymouth Rock landed on us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're aliens. So they want to hold property. So Article 11 and Article 60 of the Madrid and the Act of Algeciras confirms that right for them to hold property, not own property. And that's the reason why they got to pay 7% rental rates per annum, I think it is, for occupying the Habu properties. You see? Because you don't own that. You just hold it. Oh. So all these buildings that was founded in such year, they hold it. They don't own it. You see that? All the world fairs, all the Capitol buildings, all the castles, the University of Tampa, a Habu property, a palace, the Sultan's palace. You hold it and made a university out of it, but you don't own it. Where's your rent payments? You see? This is very telling. But again, it's them talking to each other. All right? So they hold property. They get the whole property. They don't own nothing. They just hold it. All right, continue, brother. It is understood.
It is understood that these regulations are not entirely consistent with the provisions on the subject of land ownership in the Act of Algeciras and the Convention of Madrid. Under Article 11 of the Madrid Convention, the right of all foreigners to hold property anywhere within the empire is recognized, but the purchase of property must take place with the previous consent of the government. By
Mm-hmm.
Article by Article 60 of the Algeciras Act, this right was confirmed, and it was further provided that within a radius of 10 kilometers around the open ports and within 2 kilometers around certain other towns, land might be acquired by foreigners without the previous consent of the Moorish government.
That's it. So it's only in those areas that property can be bought without the previous consent of the Moorish government. Otherwise, it requires the previous consent of the Moorish government. Huh? Continue.
The proposed regulations define inalienable property to include Jewish lands, the seashores, habus or mosque properties, tribal lands, forest land, desert, uncultivated or ownerless lands, or bearing land, and escheated property. The department is advised that practically all of the land within the 10-kilometer zones, especially at Tangier, is either Jewish land or seashore. Consequently, there would appear to be little or no land lying within the 10-kilometer zones, which may be subject to private ownership without the consent of the Moorish government. Moreover, while in one paragraph the regulations recognize the fact that under Article 60 of the Act of Algeciras, no authorization is necessary for the sale of lands within certain zones, in the next paragraph the regulations provide that the Cadi will approve no sale made to a foreigner unless authorization according to the regulations have been granted by the Moxen. It would seem, therefore, that if the regulations are correctly understood and an interpretation has been given to Article 60, which its terms would not ordinarily bear. By the same regulations, the Moroccan government reserves the right to annul or to revise any deeds of so-called inalienable property, which may have been given prior to the date of the regulations. The department is advised that much of the Jewish and seashore property, as well as other lands situated within the zones above mentioned, has long been held by private individuals under deeds legally obtained with the authorization of the responsible agents of the Mox.
So you see, they're all they're seeking to be in alignment with the Act of Algeciras because they're talking to the boss, France. You see, but these lands, what are they? Where are they? We don't know. This was in 1914 anyway. We're now in 2025. I mean, they have overran all that. So we got to right the wrongs. It's a lot of work to get done here. Because they have overran it all. Now they're acting in the capacity as if they own property. They're just going around purchasing property without the prior consent of the Moorish government. And notice that they switched up from Moorish government to Moroccan government. You see? You see? Perhaps further down the line they'll say Sharifian government, but it's all interchangeable. Moorish government, Moorish Empire, Moroccan Empire. Sure. Come on, Moors. It's all the same. Continue.
In view of this circumstance, it is difficult to believe that it is the intention of the Moroccan government to consider these regulations as retroactive in their operation and as thereby divesting or giving opportunity to divest rights in land legally acquired and officially confirmed by the Moxen's agents. The proposed regulations, as understood by the department, further provide in effect that no transfer of land will be authorized until the different Moorish intermediaries have stated that no government rights are infringed.
Moorish intermediaries. This man, I mean, do you guys see? I mean, do you guys sense the frustration here? One moment it's Moorish subjects of Morocco, Moorish subjects who are picking cotton, and in another statement we're talking about the Moorish intermediaries. So you had Moors that were in authority and Moors that were subservient, all at the same time. but except that the Moorish authorities were the authorities of their own government, which is that of the Empire of Morocco. It's very frustrating. It's a frustrating read because it's telling you the truth. They're talking to each other, and it highlights um our fall. 20 years in the whole knowledge community of knowledge of self and black power, whatever. You don't hear nothing about no Moorish intermediaries, Moorish government, Moxon. You don't hear none about none of that. Sharifian authorities. You don't hear about none of that stuff. You hear Africa, go back to Africa. Black Panther Party, the Wapian Moors, 5% nation. You hear all that stuff. The Black Star ship, the Black Star Line ship to go back to Africa from Marcus Garvey. Everybody with their fists in the air. Let's go back to Africa. But these people talking about the Moorish intermediaries, the Qadi, the Moxons, the Moorish government, the Act of Algeciras. We're so far off. We've been so far off for so many decades that, man, it's a miracle that at least we have come across this information once and for all. Finally, once and for all. And what do we do with it? We squander it and try to coup d'etat somebody. Yeah, well, I ain't having it, Captain. We're going to fight to the end, sir. Continue, brother.
This provision probably has in view the carrying out of that part of Article 60 of the Algeciras Act, which stipulates that before authorizing the execution of deeds, transferring property, the Qadi will have to satisfy himself of the validity of the title in conformity to the Mohammedan law.
That's exactly correct. That's the Treaty of Act of Algeciras. You daggone right. Article 60. Continue.
The department is, however, advised that the records of land titles in Morocco are very incomplete and that this provision of the regulations may be used to delay indefinitely transfers of property in which the Moorish government has in fact no legal or equitable rights. As a further restriction upon the right of land ownership, it is reported that notwithstanding the provisions of Article 60 of the Algeciras Act respecting the acquisition of land within stated zones around the open ports and certain other towns, the Sultan about a year ago issued 2 decrees imposing military servitudes upon land situated within a radius of 250 meters around towns and fortified quarters within certain enumerated districts. It appears that certain habus or mosque properties are all alleged to have been irregularly disposed of in the past to persons subject to foreign jurisdiction who hold these properties either without regular title thereto or by virtue of doubtful contracts. The Algeciras Conference took formal note of this situation, and by Article 63 of the Algeciras Act, charged the diplomatic body at Tangier to solve these questions equitably in accord with the special commissioner whom His Sharifian Majesty may be pleased to designate to that effect. This stipulation does not appear to have been carried out. On the contrary, the department is informed that the Sultan has communicated to the diplomatic corps a circular proposing measures for the recovery of such properties. In these circumstances, it would seem that titles to land already acquired and the right to make acquisitions in the future are being called into question and placed on an uncertain basis. This government is therefore desirous of some assurance that the vested rights of its citizens and proteges and property in Morocco will be respected, and to that end will be promptly confirmed by the Moroccan government, and that existing treaty rights respecting the purchase and sale of land within the empire will be protected and preserved.
See that? Within the empire. So they want to be able to buy and sell land within the empire and it be protected and preserved. See, so that's what Roosevelt said. The reason for the act for signing, acquiescing to the provisions of the Act of Algeciras is to increase their commerce in Morocco. To be able to hold property and buy and flip houses and flip land and do all what they're doing right now. But it never was supposed to happen without the involvement of the Moxon and the Moorish government. That's what's missing. So you can do all that, but our involvement is required. You see, but it's no longer in operation, and that's what's frustrating and heartbreaking. You see, now we got to pick up the pieces and put it all back together. Continue, bro.
In the second place, the department ventures to mention the subject of trade discriminations practiced by the authorities in Morocco. Complaints, apparently well founded, have reached this government that customs duties have been imposed arbitrarily and without uniformity, that unreasonable export duties or surcharges have been collected, and that free and open competition in bidding for the construction of public works or the furnishing of supplies for the government have been denied. It is reported that customs duties on the imports of the vacuum oil co vary for different ports of entry.
Company, vacuum oil company.
The vacuum oil company vary for different ports of entry and for different countries of origin. Thus, in practical effect, working a discrimination between importers at the same or different ports.
Hold on, man. Somebody got to mute themselves. Hold on, brother. Who is this? Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
For for example, it is stated that in the recent past, the customs duty has varied from five five $5, 5.50 francs to 6.50 or 7 francs per case. The department is also informed that in 1911, exporters of olive oil in barrels from Mogador, Morocco to New York were arbitrarily made to pay 14 pesetas surcharge as tare on the barrels, regardless of the offer and desire of the exporter or his agent to empty a sample barrel for the purpose of determining the exact tare for the shipment. It is understood that Articles 105 to 110, inclusive of the Algeciras Act, require free and open competition without preference of nationality and bidding on proposals for public works and supplies for the Moroccan government. The department is advised, however, that specific proposals are not always prepared so that real competition is possible. It is stated, for example, that the specifications do not always disclose the rate of duty on materials, machinery, and tools, so that distant bidders unacquainted with local conditions are placed at a great disadvantage in formulating bids. It is understood also that the opportunity of foreign contractors to take part in competitive bidding is minimized by the method of dividing large government contracts into allotments too small to attract any but nearby contractors. As the main purpose of the United States in participating in the Algeciras Conference and in the adoption of the act resulting therefrom was to preserve and increase its commerce in Morocco. This government.
That's right. And where did he get that from? Roosevelt in 1906 with his proclamation of the Act of Algeciras. He is quoting a lot of terms or a lot of language that came from that proclamation from Roosevelt back in 1906. Continue.
This government desires equal opportunities for American commercial interests, not only to maintain their present standing in Morocco, but also to share in the country's commercial development. In the third place, the department is advised that a commission composed entirely of French nationals has been appointed for the liquidation of outstanding claims against the Moroccan. Notice of this commission and of the date for presentation of claims has been communicated to this government and to American citizens and proteges in Morocco.
So the American citizens and the proteges are in Morocco. The government, right, has been communicated to this government and to American citizens and proteges in Morocco. All y'all in Morocco. You see, they don't hesitate to say that because that's the truth. Who's holding that shrine in their secret society? That shrine is the secret. Who's holding that secret? I use the keyword shrine. Okay, the Shriners. Y'all be killing. The Shriners know that that's their thing. No other Fez wearing secret organization wears the maroon Fez that bears Islamic terms to include Morocco. I've seen Shriners with the Fez and it's written, and written on there says Morocco. All of the entire uh costume, that's what they're wearing, is a costume. Is Moroccan costume. Is Moroccan culture that they're using as a costume when they're conducting their little whatevers, their little activities and functions, right? They'll wear the pantaloons, which is the hammer pants, and the slippers, which you call them, that flip up at the front, the fez, the Moroccan swag that Noble Jew Ali used to rock. That's why he said Moors dress like me, because I'm dressed like a Moroccan. It's very distinct. You see it in Aladdin and the shows like that. Continue, brother. So the United States, the American citizens, and their proteges, all of them are in Morocco. They know that it's just what it is. Period. They're in Morocco. This is Morocco. There's no way around it. Continue, brother.
The department is not at present advised as to the exact amount of the claims so far presented, but it is believed that the sum approximates $150,000. It is also understood that certain awards made by the Claims Commission, which sat in 1910 for the purpose of considering the claims of aliens against the Mocs, have not as yet been fully paid. This government, therefore, is desirous that the awards of the Commission of 1910 be duly paid to the American claimants, and that some assurance be given that the awards of the present Commission will be paid within a certain reasonable period. Finally, it is perhaps proper to mention the case of Jacob Benatil, an American citizen who has for some years been engaged in litigation before the Moorish courts in the manner provided in the Treaty of Madrid in an effort to secure the restoration of a strip of land said to have been arbitrarily taken and used for a highway. It appears that the property of Benatil bordered on a roadway, and that certain persons of foreign nationality, including Frenchmen, Spaniards who owned land on the opposite side of the road, erected buildings beyond their property lines and thereby caused the roadway to encroach upon the land owned by Benatil. In the course of the litigation, Benatil obtained a judgment in his favor by the Shah, which on appeal, as provided by treaty, was confirmed by the Sultan's foreign minister. Thereupon, the Consul General of the United States, according to custom, requested the Moorish authorities to enforce the judgment, but they never acceded to the request. The only legal course then open to the American claimant was for him to sue upon the judgment in the consular courts of France, Spain, and the other countries whose nationals were concerned. It is doubtful whether such a course would have proved effective, inasmuch as it is understood that the defendants would, in the event of a decision adverse to themselves, have had the right to appeal to the superior home courts of their respective countries, as the expense involved in such proceedings was prohibitive to the American claimant. The department has long desired that this case, which has been a source of misunderstanding in diplomatic correspondence for many years, should be disposed of by a settlement between. Can you scroll up a little? By a settlement between the two governments.
Where we at? Did I miss you? Oh, okay. Yeah, I see you.
The foregoing statement covers the more important matters under discussion between this government and that of Morocco. There are other matters which have given rise to diplomatic correspondence, but they may be reserved for future discussion if need be. The present review embraces matters that touch the maintenance of American commercial interests in Morocco and the protection of the liberty and property of American citizens and proteges in that country. And it is for the purpose of removing any points of controversy in these particulars and bringing about an adjustment of them, that this government, animated with a favorable disposition toward the reforms which the French protectorate is designed to assure, has addressed itself to an exposition of the questions as to which it desires to reach a definite understanding and settlement. As a preliminary to or incident of the recognition, in due and proper form, of the fundamental change involved in the establishment of a foreign governmental regime in the Sharifian Empire.
A foreign governmental regime in the Sharifian Empire. Who is that foreign governmental regime?
United States?
Nah, man. Anybody else want to take a shot at it? The foreign governmental regime in the Sharifian Empire. Y'all been paying attention? France.
France, that's what I said,
Good.
France.
No, you said the United States.
Yeah, no, I said France. I said France afterwards.
Oh, I didn't hear you say that, but yeah, France. France is the foreign governmental regime in the Sharifian Empire. So now that guy Banatuli or whatever that had a case dealing with them erecting a highway on his property, who did he have to deal with? Who presided over the case? The Moorish government, the Moorish courts. Remember? Where is it at? It's the Shra, the judgment in his favor by the Shra, Mr. Benetul. Finally, it is perhaps proper to mention the case of Jacob Benetul, an American citizen. Jacob Benetul, an American citizen, who has for some years been engaged in litigation before the Moorish courts. 1914. In 1914, the American citizens had to stand before the Moorish courts. Why you don't learn that in the Moorish Science Temple of America? Why? Why we don't learn that in the Moorish American movement? Maybe that's what they learned in the Adept chamber. Maybe that's what they learn in secret as a Masonic organization, because the Moorish Science Temple, the Moorish movement, is loaded with Masonic secret activities. Why? Why? Why do we have secret activities within the Moorish movement? Continue, brother. In conclusion.
In conclusion, it may be proper to call attention to the situation of the American missionaries in Morocco. These missionaries have for years labored in this field, including the districts inhabited by the Berber tribes, and, as the department is advised, have maintained and continue to maintain friendly and mutually satisfactory relations with the authorities of the country. They have expressed themselves as most appreciative of the courteous and kind treatment accorded to them by the French officials in Morocco. This government therefore ventures to express the earnest hope that in any reorganization of the government of the empire, which may be contemplated or in progress, the rights and privileges of these missionaries may be carefully safeguarded and every facility be granted them for the prosecution of their worthy and benevolent task.
Yeah, whatever. Worthy and benevolent task. Man, please. You going around Christianizing folks. Ain't benevolent. That's malevolent. And that's the end of the United States. J.B. Moore. And that was a long read. He had a lot to say. He's pleading his case to the French government. If you're tired, brother, someone else can pick up the read, or if you're still good, you can keep going. But we'll go ahead and end it with this one, with the response from the French ambassador to see what they had to say to the Secretary
Islam.
of State of the United States.
Yeah, I got you. French ambassador to the Secretary of State, French Embassy, Washington, April 22nd, 1924.
1914.
1914, pardon me, 1914. My Secretary of State.
And by the way, real quick, who was in existence promulgating the truth of the Negroes, blacks, and coloreds in America during that same exact time period? Oh, come on. Y'all got to know this answer
Noble
now.
Drew. Noble Drew.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead, read, bro.
Islam. Mr. Secretary of State. Referring to the oral communications by which I made known to the Department of State the views of my government in respect to the remarks contained in your Excellency's note on February 13th, last about Morocco, I have the honor, in compliance with instructions I have received, to remind you of the high value we should attach to the United States government's relinquishing, together with its consular courts, its extraterritorial privileges in the French zone of the Sharifian Empire. Your Excellency's note above mentioned held out the prospect that the United States would accede to our request and record its accession in due and proper form, but pointed out a certain number of topics as to which favorable assurances were requested. As to the matter of form, my government wishes me to submit to Your Excellency the enclosed draft of declaration, which in its opinion fits the situation that is to be cleared. I am told that the declaration has already been signed by the Russian and Spanish governments, and that other adhesions are forthcoming. As to the several points mentioned in Your Excellency's note, I may, as I have already done by word of mouth, assure you that the government of the Republic is quite ready to settle in the most friendly spirit the questions of interest to the United States and Morocco that may still be pending.
The sort of French reaffirms that the United States is in Morocco. Continue.
Among these, that of the proteges naturally ceases to be of any practical importance to the powers that agreed to recognize our new courts, the tertib tax being, besides, already paid by foreigners. As to the right of aliens to own real estate, it has not been restricted by any Sharifian regulations. All that has been done was to take a few urgent measures having relation to strategy or prompted by the necessity of checking the speculation in land intended for public use.
So you still have your right to hold your properties. This is one of your point of interest and concerns. All that has been done was to take a few urgent measures having relation to strategy or prompted by the necessity of checking speculations in land intended for public use. So is this land for public use, or can it be used for private purposes? Public use meaning, it could be a highway might be built on it, whatever, right? Public use. So he's addressing each point of interest or concerns from the United States in Morocco. So you see, when we write our documents, it's not incorrect at all. In fact, it's absolutely correct, grammatically correct, and legally correct to refer to the United States as the United States in Morocco. Period. Do you get my drift?
Sure.
So we're not going to say U.S. corporation anymore. That's old news. U.S. Municipal Corporation. Who cares? That's old news. Where is that municipal corporation? That's what matters. Let's invoke the authority of the Empire of Morocco by reminding them and the rest of the world that the United States, regardless of their status, whether it be a corporation, whatever, it's in Morocco. Continue, brother.
Um, the complaint of the vacuum oil company against the customs treatment accorded to its products had not been brought by the party concerned or the representative of its country to the notice of my government, which deems it its duty in this respect to recall that the treaties in force guarantee equal fiscal treatment to all the powers, and that they may be sure that nothing will be overlooked to let their nationals enjoy the full benefit of those advantages. My government indulges the hope that under the conditions I have just brought to mind, and in view of its firm intention to examine and settle in an entirely friendly way the few questions yet unsettled in which American citizens are interested, Your Excellency will kindly coincide in the views I have just had the honor to submit to you. Your acceptance of these propositions would be particularly gratifying to the government of the Republic, which would take it as fresh evidence of the traditional friendship existing between our two countries. Be pleased to accept.
So Russia and others had already agreed to the Treaty of Fez, the stipulations and the provisions of the Treaty of Fez, right? They recognize, in other words, what the French government was seeking from the United States is their recognition of the French Republic as having the sovereign authority over all matters regarding the Empire of Morocco. They wanted to sign off on it. So the United States as well, their position as well, before we do that, right? We need to make sure that our treaty rights are being respected and upheld, the right to hold property, so on and so forth, so on and so forth. You know, and then, by the way, we got this little concern with our missionaries who are malevolent. They're not benevolent. They're going around Christianizing folks. They're going around Christianizing, if that's the word. It's Muslims, right? That's not benevolent. You also have a concern with Mr. Ben, whatever his name is, who they built a highway on his land, right? Or encroached upon his land, right? And who did he have to, and he's an American citizen, and the litigant, and who is the what court is presiding over this case? What court is presiding over that case?
The Moorish government.
The Moorish court. The Moorish courts. The Moorish courts. Yeah. But I mean, obviously the Moorish government, but the Moorish courts. They got a judgment from who? The Shah. Fascinating stuff, isn't it? We're on page 11. There's 19 full pages. Okay, it's 19 full pages. We're on 11. You can read that declaration real quick. I didn't realize that was a declaration there.
Declaration. The undersigned, duly authorized by their representative governments, make in common accord the following declaration. Taking into consideration the guarantees of juridical equality offered to foreigners by the French courts of the Protectorate, the government of the United States relinquish all claims for its consuls, persons subject to its jurisdiction, and its establishments to any right or privilege derived from the regime of the capitulations. The treaties and conventions of every nature in force between France and the United States cover as of right, unless otherwise stipulated, the French zone and the Sharifian Empire. This declaration will go into effect 10 days after its date. done in duplicate at
Right. That is a copy of the declaration that the United States acquiesces, basically. Right. And they refer to it as what? Their privilege is derived from what? Regime of capitulations. What does that mean? A forceful takeover? Capitulations? What is capitulations? The Moors capitulated, acquiesced under a regime of capitulations. Nasty stuff, Moors, that we have to now turn around and course correct. Reform. So the French want them to relinquish their jurisdiction of all sorts. Leave it all in the hands of the French. Well, you see, it's 2025. Don't the United States still have control? The French don't even have the same level of control anymore. One of the reasons why is because the Treaty of Fez was dissolved, as we just read with the Franco-Morocco joint declaration that dissolved the Treaty of Peace, the Treaty of Fez. This is pretty short. You could go ahead and read that, and then we'll call it a night there, and then we can open up for questions, comments, and concerns. So go ahead and finish off the Secretary of State to the French ambassador in response to what the French just said.
Excellency. I have the honor to inform Your Excellency that the department is in receipt of a telegram from the American Charge d'Affaires at Tangier, stating that the French diplomatic agent in that city, in the name of the French resident general, had requested of him a memorandum of pending and unsettled claims. Understanding that this government would not be favorably inclined to recognize the French protectorate until those cases were satisfactorily disposed of. The American legation at Tangier has been instructed to submit to the proper French authorities a memorandum of all pending American claims in Morocco, and I beg to assure Your Excellency that a satisfactory solution of these cases would greatly aid this government in replying to your note of January 8, 1913, containing the request of your government for the formal recognition of the French protectorate in Morocco.
Mm-hmm. You see, so what are we talking about? Once again, what keeps coming up? The diplomatic body, American. Okay, so what did he say? I have the honor to inform Your Excellency that the department is in receipt of a telegram from the American Charge d'Affaires at Tangier. That's what Hoffman Philip was in the expatriation document, stating that the French diplomatic agent in that city, in the name of the French resident general, had requested of him a memorandum of pending and unsettled claims, understanding that this government, right? What government? The United States would not be favorably inclined to recognize the French protectorate until those cases were satisfactorily disposed of. The American legation at Tangier. So he's talking about the American, when he said the American Charge d'Affaires at Tangier, he's talking about the American legation at Tangier, has been instructed to submit to the proper French authorities, which before that it would have been the proper Moorish authorities, Sharifian authorities. Now it's the French authorities because of the Treaty of Fez. A memorandum of all pending American claims in Morocco. So you got American claims pending in Morocco. And I beg to assure Your Excellency that a satisfactory resolution of these cases will greatly aid this government in replying to your note of January 8, 1913, containing the request of your government for the formal recognition of the French protectorate in Morocco. See, the French one was seeking the recognition of the American government as France having the power and authority. That's essentially what it is that we're doing now. Not the empire per se, but those who are holding these offices, the new modern uh, Moorish authorities and officials, starting with me. They don't know no damn Abdul, right? Abdul Smith. So I require their recognition for me as an individual, not the office and not the empire. Same with the prime minister, same with the speaker, same with everyone else. Recognition is very important in international law and in diplomatic affairs on a state on state level of doing things. This is a different level of your degrees or a higher level of your knowledge and wisdom and understanding as to who you are. We got to graduate from churches and mosques and organizations and associations and groups and this and that. We got to get back to the governance. We got to get back to statehood. We got to get back to jurisdiction, political science, law, international law, Moroccan law, and the history that goes along with these laws and these principles. So it's Noble Ali said we lost the empire through science, and we'll get it back through science. What science? Is it biology? Is it biology?
No,
Okay. Chemistry?
no.
Mathematics?
Law,
A little bit, but no.
science of law,
I'm looking for a specific word, not law.
Political.
No. Jurisprudence.
jurisprudence. Right.
That's the science of law. That's the science of politics. Jurisprudence.
Jurisprudence.
So we lost it based on jurisprudence. We'll get it back based on jurisprudence. Simple as that. But it's going to be a fight. It's going to be an arduous task. And it's going to be a fight amongst ourselves. It's going to be a fight against the colonists. It's just going to be a fight. That's why we need all hands on deck. But more importantly, that's why we need unity, loyalty, conformity, and obedience. Because without that, we have nothing. Without that, we have Impact 2.0 scenarios. Without that, we have coup d'etats, collusion, and misbehaving. Negroes in a Fez behavior. Because someone's ego is so large that they're not to be questioned. He is not to be placed under investigation. Good luck with that. Interestingly enough, it's not the first time that he's been placed under investigation. Why is he always under investigation? Because he's always finding a way to sabotage something. He's a narcissist to the 10th degree. Any questions, comments, or concerns regarding the lessons or anything else going on planet Earth before we close?
Point of interest, I have two. The first one is when you said the fight. Now, y'all think we in a fight right now? Pretty soon we're gonna be in a real fight. Political, legal, and lawful fight. And this is when you're gonna have to be you're gonna have to prove to be a stand-up person for the Empire of Morocco. Okay, the next point of privilege I want to make now, correct me if I'm wrong, even though the Treaty of Fez was dissolved, most of those treaties got transferred twice. League of Nations and then to the United Charter. Am I correct on that?
Ask that again. Ask it again. I didn't hear you. Clear.
When the Treaty of Fez was dissolved,
Mm-hmm.
most of those treaties got transferred twice to the League of Nations and
No,
then to the United Nations Charter.
no,
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 okay,
no, 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 no. Because it was dissolved in 1956. Remember, we just went over the the joint declaration.
yes, but was those a lot of that a lot of that language was transferred to League of Nations and the United Nations Charter.
The language contained in that declaration, no. What's what the language that was transferred or that's being used is the language in the Act about the Algeciras and
Okay,
other Moroccan treaties. But
okay,
the League of Nations was established in 1929. This
okay,
dissolution wasn't until 1956.
okay.
The
The
United
treaty.
Nations was established in 1945. So this come way after all that.
So it was in the treaties then.
Yeah. The language contained within the charter, an international language, and the international law language comes from the treaty.
Oh, okay.
The Act about the Sierra, the Treaty of Madrid, all the Moorish treaties.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. That's where it finds its root. It's in the Moroccan treaties, Moroccan
Right,
law.
right. Okay.
Yep.
But nonetheless, I get your point, brother. But we in for a fight.
Oh, yes. Yes. Hmm.
Yeah, the point is that it all comes from Moroccan law. We're the
Hmm.
foundation to it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
Yeah, point of prayer.
Yes, sir.
I see what these what had happened is because that's why the United States used to watch Germany so much, and that's why the United States got on the part of them killing the Jews because the Germans were the only one that wanted to stop the empire from falling. So that's why they started World War One. That's what it looks like to me. To to
Yeah.
uh, reestablish the empire instead of going along with the French and everybody else that were the signatures of this of these treaties.
Well, not reestablish the empire, but maintain the sovereign and independence of the empire. In other words, not allow this same French colonial rule to take place
Right,
that happened
yeah,
under the Treaty of Fez.
right. So that's why Germany. We should have been on the German side instead of the American side, fighting with them instead of dealing with the Americans and the French and the British.
Well,
But yeah,
if you want to be real about it, we should have been on the Moroccan side fighting for Morocco, period. And Germany would have been supporting us. You see, we were supposed to be unified within the empire, while at the same time Germany is supporting us. You understand? Because if you say we're supporting Germany, then that means we're outside of Morocco, which means we're not united and locked in and with patriotism to the empire. So the proper
yep,
perspective would have been we were locked in with the empire, unified under patriotism, and the German government is supporting and recognizing our efforts. That would have been the better way to go because then we wouldn't have lost the empire.
right, right,
See, we lost the empire because of our internal strife, to include the leadership. Some 16-year-old that ain't even got his man voice yet. That's and he didn't take it. He didn't take the office until 16, but he inherited it at 13.
Damn, that's how old he was?
He inherited it at 13 and took office on when he was 16.
No wonder we lost the fight. It's a little
And
scary.
his whole life, all he studied was religion.
Oh,
His studies was based in religious studies,
mm.
not political studies. Yeah.
He didn't know
So
how
his
to people.
So he was so weak because of that. Plus, he was being manipulated by the Europeans because of his adoration for the European lifestyle, I suppose, and culture, right?
Mhm.
That he was allowing too many things to happen against the empire for the Europeans. So his brother was not with it. So he did a Jermaine Diaz Spencer. He did a coup. He staged a coup with the people's support because he was campaigning on giving pushback to French colonial rule and any European colonial rule. Well, he ended up signing the Treaty of Fez. And so here comes the Blue Sultan, Al Habib,
Mhm.
and said, I'm not standing for that. We ain't got no Sultan as far as we're concerned because he acquiesced to the provisions of the Treaty of Fez and gave the French government the power. And I'm not having it. So I'm the self-proclaimed Sultan, and I need y'all's support so that we can take back the empire and take back Algiers and all these other uh, territories that were captured by the French and the Spanish and all these other foreigners. Didn't have enough support. So the French overran him. So what if all the Moors came together with the Blue Sultan? French wouldn't have succeeded. They wouldn't have succeeded with the imposition of the Treaty of Fez against the Moroccans.
Well, the French have done a lot of dividing among us anyway. So I
What was
don't
that?
see how the French have divided us a lot anyway. You know, even when they went over to the when they would try to oversee the Sultan's territory anyway, went all the way over to the Berbers and everything just to get the signature of the Berbers over there. The French have done a lot of dirty things, so they're not friendly to us.
Well, that's true, but we also, no one can, there is no such thing as a formidable enemy to a unified group of Moors. So if anything, they really were just feeding, they were just taking advantage of what was already there. The division was already there, and they just exploited it further. You see? Because if the Moors were united, man, please. Ain't no French we gonna have no man, praise. As a matter of fact, they won the battles with French soldiers. I mean Moorish soldiers, Moroccan soldiers. Every war that they've ever been involved in, they had Moroccan soldiers at the front line, just like the United States has American Moors on the front line. You see? Because remember, we left the empire and went under the jurisdiction of the foreign Europeans. You don't forget that part of the story. We're gonna go over after we finish this read, we're gonna go over the question of Morocco. That's a document from the United Nations where all these different delegates of each of these different countries, Yugoslavia, Italy, Germany, all these different nations. Some are, many of them are signatories, others are not, and they're talking about Morocco. That's why the document is called the Question of Morocco. Very interesting. What's going to be revealed in this read. Keep it in mind, we've already read it before. So when I was preparing this class, I came across it. I was gonna present it as part of the class, but I said, no, let's wait. Let's use that for a different class. It's about 8 pages. It's a lot that's being disclosed, and a lot of which is the Moors' transgression against the empire and the Sultan. We undermine the Sultan and the empire. Yep. By going into foreign jurisdictions, escaping Moroccan law. But again, by that time, the empire was already in shambles. We had a young sultan, super young sultan, a teenage sultan, who didn't know his right from his left, or his left from his right. When the Moors was when there were these uprisings in Marrakesh and in Fez and all that, The Sultan just sat by and let it happen. He didn't bring order. You see, he wasn't respected. He didn't have. He didn't rule as a resolute sultan. He was a weak sultan. You see, and then add insult to injury, it's a daggone monarchy. So no one else has a chance. That's why the only thing they had left is to support the brother who wanted to overthrow him under the guise of I'm going to give pushback to the French Republic and their colonial activities. And what happened when push came to shove? He ended up acquiescing to the Treaty of Fez. And again, that's where the Blue Sultan comes in. Very interesting story, man. Listen, the history of Morocco is fascinating. Very fascinating. I'll be posting in the Telegram a video that I came across. It's about 30 minutes long, in which he details the history of the Empire of Morocco. It's pretty well put together, but you also got to know what you're looking at because he's presenting it as the land of the Kingdom of Morocco as of today. He's not presenting it as the Empire of Morocco, which transcends several continents. You see, his scope of the size of the empire is absolutely incorrect, but the story is pretty uh pretty much on point. The transition. He even talks about the um the dividing of Africa in the Berlin Conference. All the stuff, all the atrocities, the colonialism, and all the stuff that happened on planet Earth, the fall of humanity is because the Moors fell. As we go, so does the world. So when we rise up, so will the world. But as long as we remain in lower self, the world will continue to be in shambles. And the only way to rise up from our lower self is to find unity, man. We gotta find unity. We have to be mindful of the traps of colonialism. I tried that already with the one Jermaine Diaz Spencer. In a infamous recording, I had already sought peace amongst us all. I said, let's be mindful of the traps of colonialism and let's have a conversation like men so we can settle this. Keeping in mind that we don't need to implode, we need to maintain unity, even if that means letting go of our ego for the greater good. And then it turned out to a cuss out session. Mm-hmm. You're just the lead actor, sir. So I led with peace. I turned poison into medicine, and he turned that medicine back into poison. And said, I'm just the lead actor and a placeholder, and so on and so forth.
Important privilege.
Go ahead, bro.
So I noticed you were mentioning about the Masons and the Fez. Does that have any coincidence with the Elks? Because I know the Elks, they also wear a Fez.
My father was an elk.
Yeah, so was
Bro.
mine. So I just found that out, and I noticed that they were all wearing fezzes in their pictures.
Mm-hmm. Purple fez with the gold elk, the gold deer on the front. They're all holding on to this history, this story. Do they all know? Not necessarily. That's why you have different ranks and different degrees. The higher degrees you achieve, the closer you get to the truth. But
And
what I was
also the
referring
women
to,
too, right?
yeah, the
Morning
Eastern
Star,
Star,
all that. Yeah,
yeah, all
Eastern
that.
Star, yeah. Yeah, my
Yeah,
grandmother was one.
Eastern Stars, I mean, all the secret organizations, the Skull and Bone Society of Yale, that George Bush and them was a part of. I remember George Bush and John Kerry. They were like, "Yeah, we're members. Because you tell us to sit. No, we can tell you the secret." But they didn't deny that they were members of the Skull and Bones, and that's where the highest of the highest elite go. That's where CIA directors are members of the Skull and Bone Society. It's a different level. There's levels to this, like the highest level. So George Bush his entire operation was based in the further subjugation of the Moors, keeping the Moors down so that the empire wouldn't resurrect. And he did a great job, man. He did a great job. That's why when people say Trump, Trump, I'm like, huh, George Bush. y'all got amnesia, man. The crack epidemic that leveled
That's it.
not only our communities, but the mindset of our people
Destroyed us.
that destroyed us was George Bush and Reagan.
Yep.
Dare not to do drugs. You tell me about Trump. Let's talk about George Bush. And then let's talk about Biden with his crime bill. We want to hear about Trump being racist. Let's talk about George Bush and Biden with his crime bill that you get, three strikes with a dime bag of marijuana and you're in jail for life. Like, come on. I mean, just egregious loss that destroyed our communities and fed the pockets of the private prison owners.
Yep.
Yeah, Iran Contra. They flood our neighborhoods. I mean, the crack epidemic, the 80s, 70s, late 70s, early 80s, 90s. Uh-huh.
Noriega.
Yeah. But again, that Noriega thing is the same Maduro thing.
Yeah,
Oh, he's a drug lord.
Yeah, they captured Noriega. So he wouldn't tell.
That's
He's gonna
correct.
snitch on George Bush.
That's right. That's right. Because George Bush was smuggling drugs from Colombia through Panama, through the Panama Canal, and bringing it into the United States. Same as Clinton. Clinton, too, when he was the governor of Arkansas. This is all part of a grand plan to destroy the Moors and keep them from rising. What did J. Edgar Hoover say? He's going to stop the rise of the Black Messiah. The Black Messiah is not this individual guy, this individual Black guy that's the Messiah. It's the collective coming together as one. That's the Messiah. That's the rise of the Black Messiah. The rise of the Moorish Messiah. The rise of the Moorish government that they are speaking about just as recently as 1914. Well, that's not recent anymore. Man, that's been a minute. Like, you see how long it's been? That's during the time of the prophet. And you think the prophet don't know about this? So I'm so smart that I know about it, but Noble Drew Ali, it happened during his time and he don't know nothing about it. Come on, man.
A lot of these things took place on his birthday, January 8th. So
Yeah.
he had to be combating against it.
But there's a lot of misinformation and misconceptions surrounding the teachings of Noble Drew Ali. And the Moors are just standing on it like, it's crazy. It's like, bro, you know that he's been compromised. It was the same Moorish Americans that killed him. They ransacked his office, removed all the information, replaced it with new information. And you think that this is pristine? We're not talking about 1913 information. We're talking about post C. Kirkman Bay and E. Millie Ale and John Givens and Elijah Poole Bay and Sweet Daddy Grace. I don't know if y'all know about Sweet Daddy Grace, but he was a Moor in the Moor Science Temple, and he came out and he established the IHOP. What's the IHOP? Y'all know about the IHOP?
No.
It's like the International House of Prayers. Y'all ain't familiar with that?
No, sir.
Every city has an International House of Prayers. And every Sunday they cook soul food, they sell it, and it be some of the best soul food you've ever ate. My baby mama used to stay up in that joint. Every Sunday, come home with a big plate of soul food. Sweet Daddy Grace. So the IHOP Corporation, the restaurant, they sued them. They can't use that acronym anymore. Yeah, it's a very extravagant building. Every IHOP is and they call him Sweet Daddy Grace. They refer to him as Daddy and Sweet Daddy and all this. It's crazy. Man, I don't know how the Moors. I don't know how people. I don't know how a grown ass man can tell another man daddy or sweet daddy or none of that. None of that. And he's supposed to be some pastor. He comes from the Moorish Science Temple of America. Yeah, there's a lot of splits
Yeah.
that came from, and then they all went off and started doing their own whatevers to further uh enslave the Moors. Mm. It's been very ugly what we have been through, man. Oh man, it's this stuff is very hard to stomach. It's very frustrating. These classes are very frustrating. You know what I mean? And when you do the studies to put together the classes, it's very frustrating. It's like, wow, you know, we could have achieved this a long time ago if our own people wasn't getting in the way. If our own people weren't the ones. You talk about the white devil. No, let's talk about the black devil. He's the
The
Yeah.
one.
boule.
Well, yeah, but I'm just speaking about us in general, not necessarily an organization. Just in general, we are the enemy.
Yeah.
We are our own enemy, whether it be the Boule, whether it be the black version of the Shriners, whether it be the Eastern Stars, whether it be whatever, NAACP, whether it be AMPAC 2.0. They fall in that category as well. Obstructionists, sellouts, treasonous individuals.
No, integration really hurt us.
Well, I mean, we were already hurt before that. That definitely killed us. But again, after integration is what came along. That's what brought along the crack epidemic. Remember, that happened in the 80s. But integration did hurt us, no doubt. We was already hurt before that because even before integration, we didn't have knowledge of self. In the 60s, everyone else was decolonizing. We, on the other hand, were marching and praying. So that was during a moment of segregation. But even in a moment of segregation, we were crying for integration because of Martin Luther King. Man, listen, it's just, but it is what it is. Today is a new era of time, and the empire is back, and we're fighting an arduous task, a serious battle, because we're going against our own, and we're also going against uh the aliens. That's what they called themselves, didn't they? Aliens. They said that they were aliens. I didn't say that. They said it about themselves. Did they not? Did we not just read that?
Aliens in the Sharifian Empire.
There's aliens in the Sharifian Empire. We're fighting aliens in the Sharifian Empire, and we're fighting natives of the Sharifian Empire, just like the Sultan. It's all over again. I'm dealing with the same thing these sultans had to deal with in the past. You know, to main to it's a struggle and a fight to keep and maintain and establish the sovereignty and independence and integrity of our domains. I'm not even mentioning the economic liberty that comes without saying. I don't care about all that. But let's get the sovereignty and independence and the integrity of our domains settled.
Yep. Let's get off the hamster's wheel. Let's get
Get
off the
off the
wheel.
hamster's wheel. What we just did when we got rid of AMPAC 2.0, when we chopped the heads off, whack-a-mole, Jermaine Diaz Spencer and the rest of his cronies, this criminal element that kept gatekeeping us and had us going in circles, buffering, as he likes to say, huh? Had us buffering, going in circles, not going nowhere fast, talking some foolishness about the Pacific settlement of disputes. What's going on right now with Venezuela and the United States? Trump, instead of him just kicking in the back door of Venezuela, what he was supposed to do is adhere to the Pacific settlement of disputes. Did y'all hear what I'm saying? That's where that's exercised. So that's where he was supposed to exercise mediation, arbitration, conciliation, arbitration, then adjudication, not jump straight to arms. But these are for two recognized states of the uh, uh, General Assembly of the United Nations. When it comes to decolonization, it's not about mediation, arbitration, the Pacific settlement of disputes. It's about the C-24, right? And the Fourth Committee, and so on and so forth. So this is where he had us going, to some ICJ. No, we was never going to the ICJ, and he knows this. So as I said before, controlled opposition. See, The Blue Sultan wasn't based on controlled opposition. He was just the opposition that rose up against the French Republic under the rulership of the seditious Jermaine Diaz Spencer. What we had was controlled opposition. Did y'all hear what I said?
Sir.
It was under control from the feds, using Jermaine Diaz Spencer as the operative to lead us astray. Any other question, comments, or concerns? Y'all have an excellent night. Long live the Empire and His Majesty the Sultan. Islam.
Long
Peace
live
and
the
love, everybody.
Empire.
Long live the
Sultan.
Empire.
Peace and love,
Long live
boy.
the
Majesty the
Empire,
Sultan.
Majesty the Sultan.
Right.
Peace and love.
Empire,
Right.
Majesty the
The
Sultan.
Empire
Long live
shall
the
strike
Moorish
back.
Empire.
The Empire will strike back. Peace, peace.
Long live the Empire, His Majesty the Sultan.
That's right.